Welcome back to another episode of Beyond Giving. I'm Zac, the nonprofit guy, and you are watching the best nonprofit podcast on the Boost Network, sponsored by Nonprofits HQ. This week, we have an amazing conversation with a local organization that's advocating for artificial intelligence literacy. We've got Mihir and Aryan from Learn2AI. And this nonprofit is called Learn2AI. We've got Mihir and Aryan with us to kind of share that. So let's start by kind of learning about your guys' background and what kind of led to this.
Thank you so much, Zac, for having us. We have been knowing each other, but this is the first time that we are conversing like this. But thank you so much for having us. To begin with, I have the experience of around 14 plus years in the tech industry.
Yep.
Did my engineering, have been a programmer, like a developer to begin with in PHP Zen, and that's
Zen. That's an interesting place to take off.
Absolutely, it was. So basically, that's how it started, and then of course, climbed up the ladder, started the different roles of operations, sales, business development. But then, what I really enjoyed is basically starting up things from completely new environment. So that's when I started living in Mexico, in UK. Colombia, Spain, and been in the States for a while. But the idea is then how to set up something which is very challenging, but very close to my heart, and how to really set it up from ground. That's what gives me pleasure. But of course, I am being a big advocate of the industry. I mean, with technology, especially what's happening around. And over the years, what we have been known as machine learning, now it's called AI, like Gen AI, the cool word is about.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the subset of ML has really grown to encompass a bunch of different things, not just in terms of building software, but actually using software too.
Absolutely.
Changes the way people use it, which is really cool. Now, you've always been somewhere around AI, whether you're using it to build for clients or using it for productivity yourself, right? And so it does make sense that you're kind of going in this AI type direction.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about it in a while. But the idea is that since we have been doing more like as a tech company, as a staffing company, as a solution company, but then what about those who are not into like technology? What about those? And now considering we have those tools where with prompting, you can do a lot of things. You don't need to be a nerd. You don't need to be a geek.
Absolutely.
Or writing a Python code for making things work.
You don't need to be technical to build a technical product.
Absolutely. But then how people are ashamed, people are afraid of, what if and I'm talking about executives as well, who are working on the large firms, but then they're like, I look like a fool if I just open up myself. But yeah, that's about me. So that's what kind of led me to start something like Learn2AI.
And so you founded Learn2AI and then brought in Aryan as kind of a co-founder to help you kind of build out the organization, right? So Aryan, tell me a little bit about your background and how you managed to join this nonprofit with Mihir.
Yeah, so my name is Aryan, and first of all, thank you for giving us the opportunity. I'm going to be a high school senior.
Okay.
And I would say I use AI more than your average teen does. I use AI for quite literally everything, like organizing notes. I mean, now even this. We even do it for the Indian community outside as well. And so with Mihir doing this urge, right, wanting to make this Learn2AI thing possible, he kind of found me, and then together we merged and made this happen.
So how are you two connected? So you come from these large enterprises, building, you wrote PHP, like all this stuff. You use a lot of AI. How did you two actually connect? Where did you connect and think, this is something I want to join?
So we have someone in common through whom I came in contact with Aryan.
Okay.
But the idea was that Aryan is half of my age. And the exciting thing is with the youth, the kind of passion that they bring up are like, hey, I wish when I was young, I could have had that much of, enthusiasm.
Right.
I mean, the kind of potential and passion that they share. So when we spoke and I was like, hey, Learn2AI, this is what I am doing. This is what I want to do. And like, hey, can I team up? And a lot of people ask me this question, but when I kind of spent some more time with him, kind of understood and realized at this age, he's already leading a lot of initiatives on the Indian community level here in San Antonio and even in his school.
Tell me about some of those kind of initiatives that you are leading in the area. And then I want to kind of explore what your two roles are at the organization, right? So it's very early stage, right? So it's pretty much everybody does everything. But what are your kind of areas of expertise that you bring to the org?
Yeah, so I So if you go to the Indian community, we hold youth events in which we teach the youth about Hinduism and Indian culture just to kind of preserve it. We hold many events here in downtown as well. A large one being City Diwali, and
Okay.
we have an entire parade. We have stage programs, and a lot of that stuff is hectic and a lot like I lead some of it. I'm not saying like lead, but I mean like I help in the planning of it. In school, I am the president. I hold a lot of officer positions for a lot of clubs, and so I feel like that's helped with this speaking thing, a lot
Yeah.
of this organizing and like making sure everything ends up in the neat format.
Okay, cool. And then, so what does a day-to-day look like at Learn2AI? Like, what are you guys currently working on? What are you bringing to the table in terms of your expertise areas? What does that look like?
I mean, mainly expansion, right? We want to find different people of different backgrounds to show that it's not only for example, regular people. Currently, we are working with 434 Media, which is a large media company, but then we want to make sure that youth, even executives, your average person, small to medium-sized businesses, these guys all get incorporated, and we all find cohorts and events for them.
Okay.
Just to add on that, the idea is that I am primarily associated with a company with Kalaksha Staffing, and we work like tech and non-tech staffing, solutioning, and everything. But then with the experience, and especially living in San Antonio, and San Antonio has been very welcoming. People like you, when I came to San Antonio, were very generous, opening the doors, helping in terms of guiding, hey, to whom you should meet ideally. So I guess over the years, I've built some good connections, relations, I would say, with even working with startups to large enterprises. That's where I see the gap with students, executives, even small to medium businesses. So on a day-to-day basis, what we have been doing is earlier it started like building the cohorts, realizing where exactly what kind of cohorts we can build up to, because considering people have their own work, their own things, their own businesses, but then they still want to learn. We want to educate them. So we basically plan around that. Right now it's happening, which is more about we are already executing some of them. As Aryan said, as we speak, one cohort is going on at the very moment. But the idea is, it brings.
And is this your first cohort for the org, or?
Not really. This is the third one. This is the third one. We have done it one for one of the schools and one for kind of a close group of the large executives as well. But then the idea is that gives us joy when we really see making that more interactive and people really do this and implement this in their daily life for making their own things productive, their own work productive. So out of 8 hours, they're like, hey, you know what? We are able to do things in 2 hours. And now they have 6 more hours. It's not to Netflix and chill, but the idea is you can do something, work on yourself or work on something else that you wish to do.
Or grab a beer and watch Netflix.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's awesome. So how long has Learn2AI kind of been around?
So in my thoughts and ideas and visions, it's been over a year, but officially, formally, we have started this over 4 months now.
That's exciting. That's a really exciting time when you're defining everything and like ironing out your mission, that sort of thing. And so when I know a little bit about the different programs that you offer, but can one of you kind of give us like an overview of the different types of things that you're teaching, the different resources you provide? Like, what does a journey through Learn2AI look like?
Yeah, so a big one is prompt engineering. So a lot of this stuff with AI starts with prompting. If you can prompt the AI and tell the AI what you want to do, how you want it to be, you can get the proper outcome. So prompt engineering is a really big one we do. We do AI youth clubs. We do AI for civic good, incorporating like things like healthcare into AI as well. Developers like the executives, and we do a lot of it.
So these ones are the 4 weeks one, but we also have planned up few more. So for the executives one, which we did is like for 20 hours. It's not for weeks, but then we have planned like more than 15 cohorts for now, which are about to get unfolded. But the idea is that how about we can use the Gen AI for UI UX, for biz dev, for some of the leaders, but specifically for HRs or for a particular tech scene. The idea is not to just help them with putting a lot of technical things and build agents and this, that. No, but there are tools there. The idea is that we want to show with just a $20 of subscription with any of the LLMs, you can really build so many things. Sometimes we feel like, oh, you know what, we cannot do a lot of things, but you can. So it's just enabling them with that.
And that's such an interesting thing because like this idea of prompting AI has only been recently, comparatively to technology, right? It's only been recently a thing. And so, but now it's like common knowledge, right? Most people don't understand how to actually construct a prompt or how to get the AI to, I say think, right? The way they want it to. But yeah, all these different tools, like you don't have to be technical to do technical things anymore. So I'm a recovering software engineer, right? That was my entire career from my first job until we started my current company. And I was so resistant to like paying these stupid subscription fees for these stupid AIs, right? We build a lot of AI. I know what's actually happening under the hood there. But I swear, once I started paying for ChatGPT, man, life just became so much easier.
Absolutely.
I didn't have to write these stupid emails anymore. All the like tedious stuff that I know don't actually want to do, AI was able to handle for me. So people can join one of your cohorts and learn like what's the outcome. So they'll understand some prompt engineering. Will they understand? I know you guys just pitched at 1 million cups this morning, right? And that was a really cool pitch. I know one of the questions in the audience was something around the ethics of using AI, right? And that's such a nuanced thing. So I do a lot of speaking about the ethics and the safety guardrails you have to add when you implement your own AI or integrate other AI products into your stack. And so to give you kind of an example, one of our customers, before we onboarded them, would take all of their donor information, the names, the addresses, the phone numbers, the amount that they donated. I think it had like their last four of their payment method, all of this, and they'd paste it into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT questions about that, right? So when you're teaching people these way to interact with these different models, are you baking in that kind of safety and ethics type of mentality into that curriculum, or what does that look like at Learn2AI?
That's a good point, Zach, and that's a very important point which people are not realizing. I guess as small organizations, they don't worry a lot considering, okay, how much information they are sharing. Still, they will have some sensitive information.
Right.
And a lot of this will come with the experience of I personally, myself, and with the companies that I would be involved with, but with implementing solutions for larger companies too. And we're like larger banks, larger insurance companies. So kind of having that understanding about how usually things operate when you scale up from small to medium to large company, I probably have learned what not to do then more than, which things
Absolutely.
to do and which things don't work basically. So kind of when we try to do these cohorts for Learn2AI, we kind of explain them what not to do. So one of the things, for example, for this executive club that we are trying to build is, even for a medium to large enterprise company, what if you can build a wrapper around an LLM and basically either have an NVIDIA chip installed in your own infrastructure or have a wrapper built. So basically it's one-way traffic.
Yep.
So your data doesn't go out basically to any of these LLMs. Then you put everything, still not everything, but the idea is to put it. Another thing which we have seen so far is that when it comes to companies, right, not all employees care. The idea is that they might be like, hey, you know what? So instead of fighting the system, what if you enable them saying, hey, use AI, but don't use that AI. Basically use the wrapped one AI, which we are offering you. You can name it anything, You can say Zac AI for Nonprofit HQ. The idea is use that AI. So instead of you fighting the system, give them something to play with. Like, okay, automate. For example, if you are already in the Microsoft environment, Copilot is there, but maybe somehow keep it restricted. So it's just one-way traffic. But setting guardrails is very important because you never know, one fine day, someone might call you with all the information, blackmailing this, that, or
absolutely. And
fake.
Data is value, right? That's where value in software is the data that they hold and the data they process. And so you have all these companies, when LLMs and your various different AI models started becoming super popular and super cheap and easy to integrate, they were throwing everything at AI, right? If you had a ChatGPT API key, then you were an AI company, and that was that. But most people didn't consider the danger of the information they were putting into it. And we control our AI models, but we still don't expose it to anything sensitive, right? We use RAG and a few other things to filter out and aggregate that data.
So one of the things to add on is when people start becoming dependent on something, that's where the scary thing is. I mean, that's what we try to explain. Use it kind of as a platform to step upon it and use and do your job. Don't be dependent. Like if the internet is down, I cannot access to ChatGPT or Gemini.
Yep.
My work is stuck.
Well, if the internet is down, I'm probably not working that day anyway. But yeah, that's a good point too, because you have to use AI where it makes sense to actually use AI. Where is it going to add value? Where is it going to move you forward, and not be like a barrier? Cost of change is hard for companies. It's hard for just humans in general. Cool. So tell me about this current cohort that you've got running right now. What are they learning? What is the experience like in one of these boot camps or these?
Absolutely. So
Are they called boot camps? What do you call them? Just cohorts?
Cohorts.
Okay,
Cohorts
cool.
for
Yeah.
now. So this one was exclusively planned around. So what we do is we also customize our cohorts considering, okay, if there is a business who wants their own employees or trainers to get trained
Mhm.
and to make an impact with whatever they are doing on a day-to-day basis. So this was kind of planned around that. So we analyzed, okay, what kind of system they are using in terms of either as a CRM or for daily communication for their marketing tools. And then we kind of build the cohort around it to just teach them and enable them, okay, how with the prompt engineering, with the other agents that you can learn how to build with simple manners. But then this one is very fun because it's a media company, 434 Media. And Marcos is a great guy. And that's how we got the liberty about, hey, you know what, doing and playing around with stuff. So we have been working with them to build agents. So in fact, soon in the next week, they're going to present their agents which they have built, which can help to really elevate what the company wants to achieve in the next 2-3 years, instead of just building some shiny fancy things, you know?
So these cohorts that you're creating, you're creating a custom curriculum to help the company and their employees accomplish whatever it is they're trying to accomplish. That's kind of like the end goal, that they have the skill set to do that now. And so like do you only provide this knowledge through these custom plans through companies, or do you have like publicly open cohorts? Who's the target person that you're serving?
So for now, what we are doing is we like to preserve the meat of that cohort, but what we customize is basically, let's say, the output which is relevant. So the agent that we might want to showcase or build or offer at the end could be relevant to you.
Oh, okay, so you're still teaching the foundations, the same principles, the same lessons,
That's
right?
right.
You're just tailoring it to where at the end they have the output that they're looking for.
So then it's more useful in terms of, okay, if let's say if you're running a restaurant and I'm teaching you everything about, you know, how NASA operates and agents about that, maybe not relevant to you. You understood everything about AI at the end, but then the idea is if I give you some agents or if I teach you some tools which can help you in terms of managing your daily restaurants or reservations or biz dev, how to get more customers. The idea is at the end, it should be around that. So, so far, that's how we have been operating. Talking about what happens on a like kind of sessions and all, Aryan has been working very closely. So he's the one who kind of designs, works with our trainers to define in terms of how it should be panned out, you know, how the flow should be. He's our producer.
Okay, so
who's running the show.
So when you're creating these, like, how are you determining what is important to teach, what is more nice to have, and like, how are you prioritizing that throughout your cohorts?
That is a lot of like basically what the company wants out of it, right? Again, like at the end goal, everyone kind of learns the same thing, but then what they get out of it is different. So based on what 434 Media wanted, we made a extensive curriculum, and these interns are they're pretty knowledge themselves. So this wasn't like your regular prompt engineering course. It was a lot more extensive and a lot more complex. And so working with the trainer, making the content, and all of that, it's a pretty tedious task. As in, like, sometimes it's hard to construct everything. And so a regular day, basically, we start off with like a presentation or a small little activity, and then we try to keep it as hands-on as possible. So we use different things like Google Collab and all those things, and we make sure that everyone is interactive, and we make little group breakouts, and we try to, keep everyone engaged and not fall asleep mid class or session.
So there are some of the collab files, like proper JSON files, lab kind of setup, virtual labs that we have created. So what happens is, as Aryan said, we don't want people just falling asleep. So the idea is it starts with something, they understand everything, but then it's an interactive exercise of they also executing the prompts with the instructions that being shown. They are learning, they are implementing before the next session. They are already excited to go home and try it out, on either their
That's
whatever.
How you know you had a successful class, a successful
course.
Absolutely.
And when we start the next session, they're like bombarding with the question like, hey, you know what, why he's getting the response and why we are not getting the response. So that makes it feel also good.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's cool. Like when you can share a skill with somebody and they take that, they learn it, and then they know how to execute it and they are excited about utilizing that skill. That's really cool. But now, so all of this takes dollars, right? It takes money to run an organization, to keep things compliant. It takes money to produce these different contents, all of this stuff, right? So how is Learn2AI funded? Are you guys funded through public charity contributions, through grants? Like, what does that look like for you?
For now, we are bootstrapped. For now, we are, self-funding ourselves. The idea is to really add some value by not just showing that we add value, but we want to do some of these cohorts, definitely. And then the idea is that we definitely want to tap for some of the grants, some of the programs which are out there, which, can support an initiative like this, even some of the private institutions, blog organizations as well, that we are trying to work around to see, hey, you can support, basically, you can be a part of doing something which can be better. But then, of course, educational institutions is something that definitely AI literacy is something people need to know.
Is that something that's made it to... Now, granted, I have like opinions about like the school systems and education in the country, right? But is AI literacy something that's being incorporated into education just generally speaking yet? Or are we still like way behind on that?
We are still behind. AI literacy, I think a lot of schools don't prioritize it, not mainly because it's newer and people, again, like can use it for the wrong way. So then I think schools are sort of leaning back on like that unethical way to use AI.
I mean, you can use anything unethically. You can use anything wrong, right?
But then if a school promotes it, then it's like, oh, the school let me use it so I can use it. And then you kind of have that.
But one thing that I've seen is I've been meeting few people. I mean, this morning in 1 Million Cups, I met a high school professor. What's happening, I guess it starts from top to bottom, right? So if you want to bring a change, but who's going to bring that change? So you need to educate your staff, or let's say the professors and everyone, like being aware about what's happening, so then they can pass it on. I'm not saying just enabling one kind of thing about AI. Okay, now we're going to learn about AI. It cannot unless it's coming and it's being supported from top to bottom, saying, hey, you know what? We are there. This is how we're going to do it. Let's not do it the usual way. Like, let's say I build a presentation. I don't want you to build a presentation in PowerPoint. Use one of the tools, for example.
Absolutely.
Or make me a short film using VO3 or Sora or whatnot. But the idea is that all these should be motivations. Kids are going to use it anyhow.
Yeah. And so that probably leaves, though, like a pretty large gap in skill from what you get going through school and then where you land once you get in the working world or whatever. And I think that's probably why AI literacy is super important, because all of our tools are kind of based on that, right? And so you need to know how to use it safely and ethically, but also productively to get the output that you're looking for. What are some of the biggest challenges you two have seen since starting Learn2AI, and where does your organization struggle or need the most like attention?
What I have seen so far is, first thing is people not opting for help when they really need help. So it becomes at points critical. Like we have to explain people like, hey, you know what? Upscaling is important for you to know it's important. And there is a fear of people thinking, hey, AI or this is going to replace my jobs and that. But the idea is it's not going to replace your job. Maybe someone who knows how to do all these things, how to use those tools, might replace your job. That's very much possible.
And that's such a good point. It's like, you know, this idea that AI will replace our jobs, or like we've had these things before, right?
Exactly.
As new computer stuff from new tools or new technology. Oh, we don't want that. It's going to replace our jobs. And then it becomes just a part, and we've had to pivot on what our jobs or look like or what we think about as work this entire time. So why is AI anything different than the last, few times we did that? But that's very true. I mean, if you are a carpenter, right, and you go to work and you don't have a saw, but there's a guy that has a saw, they're probably going to get the job, right?
Yeah, like, it's as simple as that. I mean, anything, if you're not brushing yourself up for making sure you are competitive in the market, that's what it helps, because it's obvious, right? If you are doing the same thing which takes 4 hours and someone is using something which you can also use and do it in 2 hours, that also works. And I was telling Aryan this morning, like what I'm seeing the trend is like it is still not there, because many people are there who are not yet familiar with Gen AI, are not really aware about prompting. But then there are people who are already moving to a Gen Tech world. And by the time these people will catch up about what prompting and everything is, there will be companies and people who are already ahead. The idea, what we want to do is, hey, right now is the time, educate yourself. And we are there to help. We are there to support. Because in future, it's going to happen. Like, everyone will have AI bots talking, making calls. And on the other hand, AI bots responding. So 2 AI bots talking. And maybe down the road, 5 years, we might have humans in demand who can talk. So it's always the circle which is going to happen. But how you can stay ahead in the game, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. And so, you've been talking about, and I want to dive into, you said you use AI tools for almost everything. So I want to kind of dive into that. But before we go there, you've mentioned a few things like, LLMs, Gen AI versus AI. Can you explain to our audience what the difference between those different types of AI are?
Absolutely. I mean, the main ones, which, kind of machine learning is being called generative AI, right? It's more of reactive. So basically, you ask something, you get a response. But at the end, these responses are based upon the data being fed.
Yep.
So these companies have spent billions, feeding documents, movies, series, and everything. But it's still dependent on all the data, and it's still learning. All of us are the users now. Technically, we are the beta testers training the models, which is fine as far as we are getting our work done, but it's still reactive. So with artificial intelligence, of course, a risk and other sides are there, but let's look at the positives of within the guardrails, whatever things we can do.
Yep.
And being reactive, how much it can solve. But if you are, let's say, a PhD holder, and if I'm asking you hey, which are the best restaurants of San Antonio, you'll only answer me that. But if I can utilize your knowledge to ask you something which only you can answer, now I don't have to find a Zac who is a PhD holder. No, it has the data. Ask the right questions, ask in the right manner.
And that's why prompt engineering is so important and probably a core focus of your programs.
Yep.
Because that's also going to be different depending on what model you're using, right? The parameters that were used to train that model. Because then that generative AI, like you're saying, it responds, but it can only respond with the data that it has, that it knows that were in those parameters. So if you kind of understand, you don't even necessarily need to understand how it was trained or where it was trained, but how you can craft the ideal response to get you the furthest through that.
And by the time we go to the agentic world, just wanted to add up what we also are showing at the end, let's say with this cohort where we know that the crowd is already a bit technical, they understand about Python and everything, we are helping them to build agents. So then they can build their own agentic systems. The idea is instead of being reactive, you can make something which is proactive. So instead of it coming back to you saying, oh, Zac, here's your email. No, already figure out what needs to be done and you can build an agent. So we have been helping companies for building an agent for, let's say, creating content. So it creates the content, it posts the content on a regular basis on TikTok or on LinkedIn or Instagram. Similarly for BizDev, it can scrape data from all those tools, let's say, whatever ZoomInfo, Apollo that you might be using. From there, create the emails, do things. There are ways. You don't need to be a developer. That's what I tell people. Hey, you need to open up though. You need to come to our cohorts and say, hey, we want to do it. To your second question, right now we are focusing on doing with businesses like B2B, but we are happy to open up a cohort where, let's say, a bunch of people shows up, let's say at least a minimum 7 to 8 people. And then if they all say, hey, we want to focus from the list of cohorts that you have, we all want to do this, we are definitely open to start a cohort for them too.
Yeah. See, there's probably a lot of just on that note, and we can kind of circle back on that another time here, but there's probably a lot of potential for opportunities or collaborations between our company and Learn2AI to serve the nonprofit world through a cohort focused on AI for good or something like that, right? There could be a lot of cool collaborations in there. So Aryan, you use AI, you said, in just about everything, right? So what are some examples? Where are your most productive uses of AI?
Even for 1 million cups today, a lot of the things were made by AI. I mean, the content obviously we drafted, but stuff like the slide templates, the VO3 videos, something simple as just saying, the videos or any images, they were all AI generated. So what it really does is, like earlier mentioned, it just saves time. Something that would take longer, right, with thinking and, planning the colors and making it just look proper and professional would be done quickly by AI.
And that's such a cool point because all of the tedious crap that goes around your job or the things that you do, right? You don't necessarily need to do that. You can let an AI tool do it, like your colors on your slides, your layout, that sort of thing. And you focus on the part that actually matters, the part that's actually moving you forward, which is the actual presentation, the content. Right?
He's the one who is managing the LinkedIn for Learn2AI.
Okay.
And all the posts where you are seeing and hearing the audio of a real person talking and everything, it's all AI generated. That's what he has been using to make it sound like a real podcast or a real voiceover.
Yep. What's the difference between, and you've talked a lot about agentic AI, right? A lot of people confuse AI agents versus AI assistants, right? And so can you kind of walk through the difference of that and why your program focuses on more the agentic AI versus the assistant AI?
Yeah, the idea is that we, again, depending on if someone for our app dev and other cohorts, which are technical, that's where we focus this upon. Initially, let's say for UI UX one or the prompt engineering one, we try to keep it basic. That's when the AI assistant.
That's part of that very much that customization for the cohort.
Yeah. Okay. But when we bring in RAG and LangChain and all the other elements, that's when if it's super technical for the building agent route or taking the agent route about opening up in Python and then bringing or merging the APIs from, let's say, OpenAI or something else and integrating those. So both, but depending on, we don't want to bombard someone who is not, in there. That's the very reason why people are afraid, because they feel this is overly complex.
Yep.
But no, I guess there are steps and people will have their liking and choice. They might like, hey, you know what, I don't want to do it. Now, even if many of the websites are being built drag and drop, how many of them you are seeing? There are people who are still paying for a developer to do it,
which
right?
is insane to me.
So there are different kind of people. Different kind of people might need different kind of assistance, and that's okay. So that's where we are open to like, hey, it doesn't matter. You don't need to be shy. Come up. It's okay. Someone might pick it up easily by reading a document. But no, you need, let's say, 2 sessions, 3 sessions to understand. That's fine, but you get it now.
And then, so I guess I do want to expand a little bit. You had mentioned a little bit earlier, and what you just said made me think of this on an executive-focused cohort where I assume, are teaching executives how to make decisions on evaluations and set those guardrails for AI usage in their companies, that sort of thing. What's interesting is, I grew up in tech. That's what I did. We build AI, like training, deployment, spectrization, all of that. And I know tools like Replit and Lovable and like all these other tools can produce amazing stuff for us really quickly. But I also don't want to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
So for example, I know I could put together a website pretty okay, pretty quickly and get that deployed to our infrastructure, done. But we just hired a marketing agency to rebuild our website, right? And so what does it look like when you're talking to these executives? What are the areas where they're kind of focused on and where is the real work happening? Because it's likely not around AI itself in those sessions, right?
Absolutely. So we have been working with some of the large institutions, and I say we, with my experience with Akshay and everything with solutioning. And we have been implementing this from last 3-4 years already.
Yeah.
So one of the example to give you, one of the largest banks in the San Antonio, you probably know already which one I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we kind of implemented a solution. So what happens is with ServiceNow, Snowflake, Ares, which are these BPM tools.
Yep.
As I said, when you're small, it's easy to pivot and do all these things. But when you're large, in order for you to change something or implement something, there is a big risk or big fear from the management. Like, oh, you know what, let's not do it. But that's when you have to explain them, hey, about what this brings in. So for example, there's one solution called Solve, which we brought in, which is a tool agnostic tool. AI basically. So what happens is it can plug into your different enterprise level systems. And then from a UML diagram, let's say it can write you the use cases or user stories, which a BA or 2 needs to be done for, let's say, 2 weeks, which can be done like in 4 hours. Now a BA needs to spend 20 hours to doing it. But then the idea is how to do it. So there is a way of doing it in development, staging, production, how you roll it out step by step. Also, it can help you cut down the budgets, because at the end, for big companies, it's all about budgeting, about, hey, how much approval you have got now. If you have $500,000 to spend in this quarter or in this year, if you're able to do this in like 100,000, you have 400,000 left.
Yep.
Where you can invest it, So the idea is you can really do a lot of things, especially when the tools, when they are not talking with each other. And with enterprises, what I have seen is all these enterprise tools have their own AIs as well.
Yep.
But it's 2 ways. That's the worst part, that everything goes out. So that's why no one wants to use it. Everyone wants to guardrail that. And that's when you can build a wrapper solution and build a solution on top of it to make it work. So the idea is when with the leaders, this is what we kind of explain, teach them, show them the demos, how to do it. But those sessions are different compared to what we teach to startups and small to medium businesses.
And so how does a company bring Learn2AI in to help, teach AI processes, help understand their processes? How do they do that? And what does it cost? Like how do you charge for the curriculum? Do you charge for the time? What does that look like?
So Pretty good question, Zach. And that's where I guess people need to be aware about it. So any of the companies, even they are startups or small to medium business or large enterprises, they can bring in if they are aware or they want to bring in, but they are afraid in terms of bringing in AI or how to do it.
Yep.
So what we usually do is either they can choose one of our cohorts, which we have like including the 15 and the plus the ones that we have 20. They have like from 20 to choose from, considering their areas if they don't want to spill the beans, about which ones our team can utilize for making their work more productive. That's
Right.
one. Second thing could be about if, like what we are doing with the existing cohorts, that's like, okay, we can be open, we can ask you about, okay, you want help, you came to me and we are talking. Now tell me which are the tool systems that you are using. And we, considering we are the experts, we can guide you in terms of, okay, what, do it in this manner. Maybe you're trying to buy HubSpot or this spot or that spot, but that tool comes up with their own complexity. And
Yep, absolutely.
you don't even know how to use that. So the idea is how really whatever you have, try to build upon around it. In terms of costing, we are nonprofit. So honestly, we try to do it at the best possible manner. We want to keep it at no cost to people.
Mhm.
But at the end, with corporations and companies and government institutions, I guess we can do it even on cost to cost basis just to cover up the cost of our trainers and all the materials that we have been using.
Well, yeah, and that's actually a good model, like to fund your like individual cohorts or your public cohorts, right? Because companies have dollars that are often budgeted for professional development or upskilling or wherever you want to put that, right? And so that could be a good model to charge a little bit over what is cost to produce the
Right.
content in the cohorts, right, for the organization, and use that to fund all of your other initiatives and stuff.
Right.
So that's pretty cool.
The main mission we have is to make San Antonio the most AI literate city by 2030.
Yep,
And
by 2030.
we want to be a part of that, not that
You got 4.5 years.
I know. So we don't want to say, hey, you know what? We talked about this. Maybe with this evolution, our name should be there somewhere.
Yeah.
Zac and Mihir and Aryan were there.
Absolutely. Definitely. Okay, cool. And then so in terms of upcoming things, what's happening? Like what's the next thing for Learn2AI? Do you have any upcoming events or fundraisers or anything that you want to share?
So one of the big events that we are having is basically kind of a demo day for our existing cohort because that's where we have given like the real projects for them to build and showcase. So that's happening next week. But other than that, we are lining up. There are a few things behind the curtain at the moment because they're not locked yet.
Right.
But we are trying to work out with some of the universities and also some of the good private institutions to start doing some of the cohorts as well. So those will be live soon. But hopefully the idea is to make it rolling in a way so that at least we can have 4 cohorts ongoing in a month. Different places, different cohorts, different kind of...
Around Texas, around just San Antonio?
To begin with, around Texas.
Okay, nice. I mean, that's still a really big area, right? Okay, awesome. And then so how can the community kind of get involved? What do you need from the community? Do you need volunteers? Do you need people to recommend Learn2AI? Like, what do you need from the community?
So 2 things. One is definitely volunteers to help and support, to guide. Second thing is we definitely want some trainers too, because we are trying to be, bring in and making it by ourselves. But definitely we will be open to hearing and getting more people who want to really make an impact there and join us as a either trainer for our different cohorts, which we have planned and designed so that we can do this and we can help multiple people at the same time. And also people to show up. That's the whole thing. Like we are doing this at a no cost to you guys. Come and make an impact in your business and don't be hesitant. That's where people usually I've seen is, you know what? It's new. And how would I look if I now go to Zac and say, oh, Zac, how does this thing work? It's okay. You can be open. That's fine. And there are companies who are reaching out to me and the CEOs saying, hey, you know what? Can I get this training first and then I can do this for my peers? And I get it. But I'm glad that at least he showed up to me, That's okay. Whatever way it works, but the idea is to come in together.
So where can you learn more about Learn2AI, how to get involved, how to make contributions?
So right now we have our LinkedIn page up since we started like 4 months ago.
Is that learn2ai.org?
Yes, that's right. But then the idea is the website is still under wraps. It's we are building up because we also have been planning to do the feature of podcasting and, donation and other things too.
So then I've got a question for you, Mihir. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Your website is still under development. You know how to use these tools to build it. Why didn't you just vibe code this thing in a weekend?
So we did. In fact, we had the first version live, and we had some changes, and we wanted to bring in. So there was some change around the board. So we are trying to also form a board around it.
Yep.
And the idea is that when we go live, we make it. But now, since it's taking some time, what we are thinking is the same route of saying, "Hey, coming soon" at the end.
Yep.
Put a banner, something
Yep.
around that.
Okay, awesome. And yeah, that's pretty cool. So like making AI literacy is becoming more and more important. And it's really cool to see organizations like yours that are making it a priority and helping people understand why it should be a priority for them. So yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today, guys. This was an amazing conversation. That's another episode of Beyond Giving, the best nonprofit podcast on the Boost Network, sponsored by Nonprofits HQ. You can learn more about Learn2AI, Mihir and Aryan at learn2ai.org.
I have a question, Zach, for you.
What's up?
What are you willing to contribute for Learn2AI?
What do you need? So, like, one of the things that we always do, it's a hard requirement for anybody that's involved in Nonprofits HQ, which is our company, is volunteerism. Volunteering for different organizations, whether they're customers of ours or not. I sit on various boards, very well connected in the tech community. Like, what do you need? That's what I'm willing to do.
Thank you so much.
So
We'll definitely be talking about it.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely.
But thanks
Cool.
for having us, Zach. Really appreciate it.
Thanks again for watching another episode of Beyond Giving, the best nonprofit podcast on the Boost Network, sponsored by Nonprofits HQ. This show isn't possible without support from our viewers, so make sure you like, subscribe, and share wherever you get your podcasts and comment on our videos. To support Learn2AI and help promote AI literacy, visit learn2ai.org to see volunteer opportunities and how you can get involved.